All right, so it feels like I have so much to talk to you about in terms of what happened before the fight, right? It's not every week where you and I are texting back and forth, right? And Brian Stan getting involved in these text messages, right? Because whether it was UFC Embedded or the press conference, right, there's stuff to sort of lean into. And Brian Stan is texting me like, dude, Jon Jones just undressed Ciryl Gane at the press conference and outlined his weaknesses to the world 2 days before their fight. Yeah. Any thoughts on that part of the preamble to the main event at UFC 285?
Yeah, I mean, I was hearing it leading up to the fight, and I'm always very impressed with Jon Jones and his ability to break things down. This is a highly intelligent human being who just might be a fight genius, okay? The way that he could break you down psychologically, technically, he knows exactly what he needs to do out there, and he's been doing it for an extremely long time. And I think what's making things worse for people who may face Jon Jones is that he is maturing, I believe, in every way, shape, or form. I think he's getting it together in more ways than one. And you can just get that sense that there is this new Jon Jones that is out there right now.
Yeah, I do think there's definitely a wisdom that was not there before. And in terms of the fight genius, see, that's a big part of all of this because there's no denying the God-given ability, right? The natural fighting ability and fighting instincts, the God-given frame, I mean, has huge hands, which you cannot say about every single heavyweight. But in terms of the fight genius, right? And I don't say this even tongue in cheek, like working smarter, not harder, I can guarantee you that he'll work harder for the Stipe fight than he did for this one. Now, that is not to say that he wasn't being truthful with the masses, but you can look at his body and recognize that he was not in the shape of his life, right? Yes, this was the first time we saw heavyweight Jon Jones, but he professed before the fight and after that he would be leaner and meaner and a better version for Stipe, right? I think he understood what kind of shape he had to be in to beat this type of challenge. No, and maybe that part of it I do say tongue in cheek, but just an incredible performance by Jon Jones. Before we get to the actual fight, I don't know if you saw our post show, probably not. You got better things to do. But I did ask Jon Jones about the tape on the toe because he has since said at the post-fight press conference that if he is not able to get ahead of this and tape his toe in the way that he wants to, he won't compete again. Because when he was in training, Kenny, it would be very rarely that this would happen, but he'd be in excruciating pain if something would happen to this toe. The toe is structurally fine, right? But he wants the ability to tape these toes going forward. And he spoke on the post show just about how his brother said you have to have skin like an armadillo because things constantly happen in the fight game. Even when you get mouthpiece into the stairs, you're walking up the stairs and something happens. All of a sudden, they're cutting tape off of your foot. And I just think it speaks bigger picture. And then 7 seconds into the fight, he absorbs the groin shot, right? Every little thing. On the post show, he said of the groin shot, Kenny, didn't hurt too bad, but I didn't want that strike to go unnoticed, right? Always thinking, you know?
Absolutely. Again, he knows what the hell he's doing. Okay. Absolutely a tremendous amount of wisdom. I also think, if we can go back to the weight thing, I think that he specifically got a little bit bigger for that fight against Gane. I think what he's alluding to is Stipe's not as big, and Stipe might be a little bit faster, a little bit more mobile in some ways, that he's going to have to kind of meet that challenge and get down himself to kind of meet that speed a little bit more. But yeah, he's thinking of everything, John. Again, this kind of experience, there's no way you can buy. I don't care what coaches you have. None of that matters. You can't outdo that amount of experience that Jon Jones has had. Big fight experience, when it's all on the line. He's been experiencing this since he was in his early 20s.
Yeah.
How do you contend with that? And now these guys that are coming in, have to face both the skill, the experience, the intelligence, the mentorship. Jon Jones has a lot going for him right now, man.
So Stipe Miocic right now is 253 pounds, and I think you're going to get a big Stipe in there. I think he wants to be big for this particular challenge, juxtaposed against being smaller and leaner for the Daniel Cormier fight. Yeah, I thought it was interesting, and I do wonder where Jon Jones's weight is going to be at. I do think it'll be a little bit lower. He did say on UFC Embedded that he ate a big breakfast. He was trying to come in right at Gane's weight, but I do think it's interesting because a lot of us did expect him to look more muscular when he took his shirt off. And I'm not saying that as any sort of knock on the guy, Yeah. And again, we didn't get to see him in 5-round shape. Go ahead, Ken-Flo.
Yeah, I think people look into that way too much. If that was the case, Tyson Fury would have lost every single fight. Fedor Emelianenko didn't look like that. Cain Velasquez wasn't this jacked heavyweight. I think, he looked lean at 205 because he was fighting at 205. I think that, I don't know. I think people are looking into that a little bit too much. I don't think it's that.
All right. Well, this is my informed speculation then. He said during fight week this week that he never really put in a great training camp before. Now, that's not to say there wasn't a camp for Rampage or Rashad that was really, really good and disciplined, right? But even for the Dominic Reyes training camp, he's sort of insinuating that it was hard to get him to show up. So, I do think that he has come the other way. But he said of the Stipe fight, there's never been a fight that means more to me than beating Stipe Miocic. I've never fought a GOAT. None of my past wins over past champions that I have beat were considered GOATs. I'm going to be lean, mean, fast, well-rehearsed. I've been training for Stipe for a long time already. He referenced getting his old notes. I'm just saying, I don't believe every single word of his mouth that this was the most optimal training camp. And I do believe that there are strides to be made. And Kenny, if I'm totally being honest, and maybe I'm making too much of it, right? But I do make too much of the Instagram stuff, right? Because if he was, doing major heavy lifting 4 or 5 times a week, I just was expecting to see a bigger package, a guy, I don't know. It is what it is.
Yeah, I think it's way more difficult to add muscle in ways that are going to impress people than you think. And I also think it's not a bodybuilding contest. If you got a bunch of bodybuilders who are coming off stage and you had them do various athletic feats and compared them to NFL stars, they would get outlifted, outpushed. Right. It's just I don't know. I think it's a little silly looking at that because it's not a bodybuilding contest. Gon looked pretty damn good, but that did not serve him.
It didn't help
damn bit.
Yeah. Now, Jon Jones said that if there was a CrossFit competition involving all UFC heavyweights going into this fight, that he would win that. And I would not put that past him. But I really do think it's going to be interesting to see a heavyweight Jon Jones pushed and extended potentially by someone like Stipe Miocic, because on the feet, right, Kenny? I mean, what were your thoughts on the way he looked in the short amount of fight action that we saw?
I thought he looked good. He looked fundamentally sound. He looked well balanced. That slip of the punch into the level change takedown on Gon was just a thing of beauty. Very subtle, but very beautiful and simple. Again, when you look at the guys that are elite in their fields, they do a lot of the invisible things. They do all of the things that are often overlooked. The fundamentals are always clean. There's no glaring weaknesses in Jon Jones' game. Really never has been there since he first started. And I think that he's only had more time to get better, to get cleaner with his technique, to get smarter. And, I just saw a guy that was very well balanced, was fundamentally sound, and he was always in the proper position. So he made it look easy because of it. Again, in the heavyweight division, it's almost unlike other divisions where there's huge disparities of skill. And you have Gon, who is the number 2 heavyweight in the world when they fought, right about. And you see him just get completely lost when it came to grappling, specifically grappling on the ground. Jones just was going to toy with him there. That's what I said last podcast. If it went to the ground, he was going to make it look easy. That's not me being Mystic Kenny or anything like that. It's just that he's always had that weakness. You saw it against Francis Ngannou. Francis Ngannou was taking him down with one good leg, and he was surprised by Ngannou's takedowns. It's like, why were you surprised by the takedowns? It's mixed martial arts. People take you down in mixed martial arts. And then I see him training with guys that are like half of his size. And I go, this guy, he doesn't know what he's in for. This is Jon freaking Jones. This isn't just some dude. This isn't some heavyweight. This isn't a guy who, won the belt a few times. This is Jon Jones, who has no weaknesses, who is as dynamic as they come, who's only going to get better. And to what you were talking about before with Stipe Miocic, I think there's a lot there. I think there's a tremendous amount of validity there. Jon Jones took this fight and I think trained harder than the fight against Reyes and Thiago Santos, because this was another chance for him to win a belt in a completely different division. And I think he'll step it up that much more for someone like a Stipe Miocic. Jon Jones is motivated by new challenges, by things that are scary. I think that's what brings out the best in him. I had tweeted about this earlier, and I think it was proven correct. He looked phenomenal. He is a great fighter who is back.